Hey, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Sunday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com, restoredmotions.com, and EV, ProChargeEV.com. All right, hope everybody's Sunday's off to a great start. Hope you had a great Saturday. Did. I emceed the Calachi Grizzly Greats. um, Drew's awake. MC Catholic High Grizzly Greats last night. It was a great night. Scott Woodward was there. One of his friends was inducted. Always great to be a part of that event on campus. And otherwise, a pretty low key Saturday. The realignment conversation calmed down a little, but what you're seeing now is a lot of the aftermath of the earthquake, right? Of the realignment, sort of like the event happens and then you go assess the collateral damage, right? So on Friday, all of the realignment happened. Right? Oregon, Washington going to the Big Ten, Arizona State, Utah going to the Big 12. Along with Arizona and Colorado. So 4 teams left in the pack, whatever, right? So all the realignment happens. Now everybody's like, okay, well, now as a result of this, what's going on? One thing Ross Dellinger is reporting is that the head of the college football playoff is saying that they should now reconsider the college football playoff, the 12-team college football playoff format. And I think it may be not necessarily going to a 12-team format, but certainly how it is formatted. I think that is interesting now. Like, clearly, you are not going to have an auto bid for the Pac-12, right? There's 4 teams there, and even if they have some type of merger with the Mountain West, it does that certainly eliminates that. So does that leave does that open another at-large bid? I think that's sort of the interesting question right now, but that clearly is going to have to change. Keep in mind, I mean, this is the last year of the 4-team. So next year will be the 12-team, and as we learn throughout the whole process, to change contracts and schedules and all, you would need sort of a unanimous vote. At least that was to change the TV contracting to go early, and then you need all the bowls on board and everything like that. So all the leagues on board. So it may be complex, actually, to get all of these people to agree with so much emotion, so many hurt feelings, all this sort of exposed nerve endings and everything. I think that'll be interesting to see. So playoff is one. The other thing that I'll tell you that I do think is going to be interesting as a result, and a lot of you have asked the question, we haven't really explored it very much, but is what happens to all the other sports. And I did give this a good amount of thought on Saturday. And I don't know that my opinion is going to be a popular one. Let me rephrase that. My opinion is not going to be a popular one. Because, I'm going to do a long segment on this on AFR on Monday. But I think we are going to see sports at a lot of institutions disband. They're going to cancel sports. They'll probably become club sports, which probably is what needs to happen. It's like it'd be every sport. Like LSU still going to play baseball. A lot of the major schools will. I'm talking about, what happens to track and field, swimming and diving, golf. I believe LSU has 19 varsity sports. And as long as Title IX stays in place, whatever money you spend on football, on men's sport, you have to spend on women's sports. So football, men's basketball, baseball at LSU aren't going anywhere. So I think what you'd probably look at is a reality where at a lot of places, everything outside of those three sports on the men's side, and whatever their equivalent is financially on the women's side, everything else goes away. I think probably not at LSU. LSU is still going to be super wealthy and, not affected by this. But, if you look at, I'm trying to take an example like that, an extreme example people have used. Could Washington's, men's diving team go under? Maybe, I don't know everything at the University of Washington, but people have asked that question a bunch. Like, what happens to the non-revenue sports? As long as Title IX stays in place as it is, you're probably gonna lose some sports. And I honestly, babe, can you please turn down? I don't. Sorry. All right, so let's get some questions. See what y'all got. I guess the part that's not going to be popular opinion is I'm okay if those sports go away and they go to being club sports. I think where we're at this point in college football where every sport outside of football and men's basketball, and then place like LSU baseball, every sport loses money. LSU women's basketball won the national championship, lost money. LSU gymnastics loses millions of dollars. Like, every sport loses money. But we just go like, it ain't our money. Or at least you don't think it's your money. But it's a fiscally irresponsible thing to do. And I know people will say, well, it's an academic institution and you're trying to grow young men and women and it's not just about money. That's true, but you need money to do all these things. So why are these teams flying private and staying in nice hotels and like upgrading facilities and getting new uniforms? Like, why does LSU tennis have a gorgeous indoor facility? And if you want to be good in everything, be good in everything. I get that. But at the same time, that's a sport that never makes money. See, now someone just said USC and Stanford's polo teams, for example. See, the thing is, so Stanford, this is where I'll always push back on this. You're not wrong, by the way, but to just as a jumping off point. Stanford, Stanford's endowment is, I just did a quick search, as of August 31st of 2022, Stanford's endowment is $36.3 billion. Stanford could build a brand new campus out of solid gold if they wanted to. But during pandemic, did you see what Stanford did? Stanford cut some sports. Said they couldn't afford it. They discontinued 11 varsity sports during the pandemic. Don't have any money. Baloney. Stanford has, And I understand that the endowment, you can't just take money from the endowment and give it to athletics. Yes, technically you could, but you have $36 billion, okay, in your endowment. If Stanford wants to keep all of their varsity sports rolling, they can with no problem whatsoever. Like literally no issues whatsoever. They're tired of losing money on sports that don't bring anything to the university other than the Sears Cup or the Director's Cup, whatever they call it, because they have 40 freaking sports or whatever. So Stanford used COVID as a cover to eliminate 11 varsity sports. And they'll probably use this as a cover to eliminate more. Because even Stanford, this beacon of of academic excellence, doesn't want to lose money on these sports. So it's cost doing business, man. Okay, let's say some good mornings here. I've rambled a little bit, so y'all fire away if you got stuff. You know the drill. YouTube.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Ty Fly, good morning. Darren Gagnon, good morning. Go Bears, yes sir. Thomas Spencer, good morning. Kelly Gross, good morning. Brad David, Trivia Carter, Jeb Whitley, what's up? Bo Jacks, good morning, you filthy animal. KC56, Donald A. Me, Michael Castello, D. Good morning. Cliff Nelson, good morning from the ATL. All right, man. Hope you're having a great weekend. Kevin Roy, Jared Esprit, finally on time with the morning sconers. All right, dude. What y'all got? Brennan Huff, good morning. Joey Metke. This guy is Matt Moscona fan. Matt, you were just not very bright, sir. You seriously think McKinley and Simmons? That's the guy talking about recruiting again. You seriously think McKinley and Simmons don't matter to the class and we don't need them? And you are happy with the mid-2024 class we have now? I'm going to stop listening to if you keep up with these ridiculous takes. Sir, in the most sincere way I could possibly say this to you, or ma'am, I don't care if you stop listening to me. There's not an ounce of my being that cares. I'm grateful to everyone who listens and watches when they can and when they do. But I also understand that there's nothing I can do to make anyone ever consume my content. When you do this business where you're doing any type of creative, if it's art or music or movies or TV or radio, whatever, you can't make people like it. You do your product and you hope people like it. And you know what? I've had a really good run. People seem to like what I do. So if you leave, I genuinely, it's not going to bother me one bit. You go find something that you like to listen to. Now, to your point, so for those who aren't familiar, this guy messaged yesterday and talked about how if LSU doesn't get Colin Simmons and Dominic McKinley, Simmons is a defensive end, he's an edge, and McKinley is a defensive tackle out of Acadiana. He's the number one player in Louisiana. That this class is a failure. That was his point yesterday. And I said, no, it's not, because do you trust the coaches to get good players and recruit them and develop them and get a good roster? Then obviously you have the transfer portal as well. You're never going to build a class around two people. Plus, LSU has recruited well in the portal at defensive tackle, and if they don't get those two guys, they'll get two other guys that are really good. The fact of the matter is, you haven't seen them play a snap of college football. They could be total busts. Could be. Maybe they'll be great. Maybe they'll be busts. I mean, remember Freak Johnson came here, and he was the number one defensive tackle, and they had to have him, and he had an okay career. Not a great career, an okay career, went undrafted. We said it yesterday, that 5 for 5 day where you had to have Speedy Noel. You didn't get him. You had to have Hootie Jones. You got Jamal Adams instead. I mean, worked out okay, And the kid the Saints just drafted, Brian Brzee, was the number one defensive tackle in the country. Went to Clemson, got injured, okay, missed a lot of last year with a personal man. I guess my point is, man, like, I assume you watch college football, you've seen it enough that, like, you just know that there's There's nothing you can do to make a recruit pick you. You put your best pitch forward and you go recruit. And, hope they get those guys. It'd be great if they do. If not, they'll sign 25, 30, whatever, really good players, and LSU will continue being really good. But if you leave, I wish you nothing but wonderful success in life for you and your family. Let's see. Shane O'Mac, good morning. Staycation week, okay. Catch up on some honeydews, drink whiskey, get ready for some football. Spurge, good morning. Ryan Pike, I think a 12-team playoff stays. It's just automatic bids. It might change. That's the point, Ryan. I mean, they're still going to keep a 12-team playoff. It's just a matter of how they choose those teams. So, the Pac-12's automatic bid would go. So, it would be, remember, let me rephrase that actually. The Pac-12 didn't have an automatic bid. The way that they phrased it was it would be the 6 highest ranked conference champions, which I guess would sort of guarantee a Pac-12 bid, right? And then it would allow access for at least one team from the group of 5. So, the top 4 would have a bye, and then the 8 would play in the quarters. Let's see. So I guess I actually don't know if you have to change it, because if you have the Pac whatever, let's say the Mountain West, the Pac whatever combined, the 6 highest rated conference champions. If you have someone go through that league undefeated, and they're an undefeated conference champion, there's a chance they could be. Hey, babe, how you feeling?
Better.
Good.
Okay, I'm leaving here in like 1 hour or so.
Okay. Got it. Let's see. Mark Blanton, how long does the ACC last? Yeah, man, and I get all the Florida State stuff, but I don't know what recourse they have. The problem is the ACC has their TV contract through 2036, their grant of rights. So, y'all have seen the number, but if Florida State or anybody wants to leave the ACC before 2036, they have a $120 million exit fee, which nobody can afford. So they're stuck. And that's the irony, is here's an actual use of the word irony. The irony is they signed a long-term television deal, essentially thinking that long-term TV deal was going to provide stability for the league, meaning you lock all the teams into this long-term deal with a giant exit fee that nobody's leaving, which is true. But the irony is the thing you did that you thought was going to save the conference is the thing that's going to kill it, because you're not going to be able to compete. Irony. Ryan Pike, good morning. Brian Penton, good morning. Trivia, Matt, what is E-Rock Drew and your favorite number trying to hit that 1.5 billion lottery? When is the drawing? Was it last night? So honestly, I never play the lottery, the Mega Millions or whatever. I just never do. And I was I went into the gas station yesterday to go buy a 5-hour energy, and the guy in front of me bought a lottery ticket, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. That's because I saw the billboard, it was at 1.5 billion. I was like, so I told the lady, I was like, yeah, I'll take a lottery ticket. And so I swiped my card, and it's declined, and I'm like, card's declined. Of course not declined. Well, I was trying to use a credit card, and I didn't even know you can't use that to play the lottery, so you have to have cash or a debit card. So anyway, I'm gonna get my debit card. But anyway, so I thought it might have been yesterday. No, Was the Mega Millions not yesterday? August 4th. Was that yesterday, August 4th? Oh, no, yesterday was August 5th. Oh, so when's the next drawing then? So are my tickets for the upcoming? Oh, it's Friday night was the drawing. Okay. When's the next one? Well, I got a ticket. So, anyway. So I got a ticket. So I tell you what, to the guy who doesn't want to listen to me anymore, if I win Mega Millions, no worries, dude. You won't have to listen to me anymore because I'll be living on Matt Island for the rest of my life. Let's see. Brad David, do you think people saying college football is ruined will still watch? Of course, that is sort of the grand thesis that I've made is, and I'm going to think of a really eloquent way to say this before AFR tomorrow, and I'll do a big long segment on it. Ultimately, the point is we are still going to watch college football and watch it in greater numbers because the product is going to be better. When you hear people bemoaning conference realignment, they're all bringing up talking points that nobody would consider otherwise, like what happens to the non-revenue sports. And the reality is, none of you really care about the non-revenue sports. Because if you did, you'd go to the games, you'd watch them on TV, and you don't. I don't, you don't, we know it. So if those sports go away, we'd have a minute on Twitter where everyone went, "Oh, I can't believe it. This is terrible. The student athlete, blah, blah, blah." And then the next day you'd forget about it. And when football season rolls around, we'll put 100,000 people in Tiger Stadium and we'll be watching LSU Oklahoma and be fired up to be watching LSU Oklahoma. That's the point. I'm just saying what a lot of people are thinking, or I'm trying to shake people awake to realize what their actions actually map to. Like, I was listening to a national radio show yesterday. It was just whoever was on ESPN radio. And they went down this path, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. Well, what are we really doing if we're these academic institutions, and are we really about student athletes and blah, blah? I'm like, no, we're not really about student athletes. How could you say that? Easy. Because it's true. There might have been a day and age where that was true. But what we've seen is college athletic departments have become the doorstep to the university. Look at the University of Alabama. I don't know if you've been to Tuscaloosa lately, but that entire town has morphed into something pretty amazing. The university is now one of the leading academic institutions with new facilities and buildings all over campus, and it is a direct correlation to the success that Nick Saban has brought that university on the football field and the exposure that has brought them over the last 17 years. So the University of Alabama is better because its football program has had the success that it has. So yes, investing the university and athletic department, investing in the football program has created an ancillary windfall that has benefited the university, period. Joe Burrow in 2019, LSU football goes undefeated. Go look at donor giving, alumni giving, applications to the university, everything, up. Like, when your football team is good, it benefits the university as a whole. The problem is, as universities realize that, have continued to invest into their football program and grow it, and revenue has become more, TV contracts, all that have become more. The problem is you've had to invest in, because of Title IX, into women's sports as well. And I use the word problem loosely. I know some of you will be offended by that, but the point is it's created this issue now where non-revenue sports have the expectation of flying private, staying in nice hotels, programs that are losing millions of dollars every year. So what I'm saying is, eat what you kill. Like if your program loses millions of dollars a year, there's no sense in investing those millions of dollars into your program. I'm okay with that. If there are student athletes that still want to play, great. Make it a club sport. Make it a club sport, organize and go play and be competitive and do all those great things, team camaraderie, all the lessons you learn. You're just not going to play on a high level where someone else is funding you because you can't afford to stay afloat. And really, most of you agree with that. Overwhelmingly, I think you agree with that. People just don't want to acknowledge that they agree with that. So I don't care what happens to the non-revenue sports. I mean, in the sense that it will affect people, I care, certainly. But why are we paying coaches high salaries for something that does not deliver in any way, that does not make business sense? And you have to look at it like a business, because at a place like LSU, you're talking about a 9-figure annual athletic department revenue. So when you generate $130 million in revenue, yes, you're a giant business and you have to be a good steward of that money. Anyway. Jason Horn, what's going on? Oh, Chris Anthony, thank you. Mega Millions is Tuesday and Friday. Got it. BJ Bollinger, what's going on? Bubba Smith, good morning. Jason Duvall, good morning. Reading Rabelais observations says they look crisp, not much shouting from coaches, and things weren't done right. I hope this continues, shows a sign of discipline team. Emmett Bean. Can those sports be non-NCAA or conference affiliated? Yes, they become club sports. That's what I keep saying. They're just not sanctioned by the NCAA. And so they're a club sport that's organized by the players and the coaches, and they raise money to fund themselves, and they pay for what they can afford. Like Title IX caused men's soccer, wrestling, like plenty of men's sports to go away. Do we wake up every day bemoaning the fact that there isn't a men's soccer team at LSU? I mean, would it be a good opportunity for student athletes? Yes. Is it practical? No. Under the way federal law for Title IX exists. So I don't know what else to say. Spurge, do you think gymnastics and softball stay at LSU? I do, because as long as Title IX stays into effect, you're going to have to spend the same on women's sports as you do on men's sports. So you look at, okay, what are the top women's sports? And by the way, Spurge, I don't know that LSU cuts any sports. I mean, LSU is one of the ones that's going to be fine. Like nothing's going to change for LSU. It's the thing that people keep asking is, what about Oregon's volleyball team when they have to fly to the East Coast to play Penn State and Rutgers and Maryland, and they have to go essentially on an East Coast road swing, and they're away from school for a week because they go and then they play, 3 matches, while they're out. And I'm like, okay, then don't have a team. I mean, I think about, what about the northern baseball schools that come to the South for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and just stay down here and play games every year because their fields are covered in snow? How do they do it? How do they figure it out? They figure it out. I mean, it happens every year. They come down, they'll play series in Louisiana and Texas and Florida. They just stay in the South for 3 weeks so they can go play before their fields thaw out. They can actually play games. Figure it out if you want to do it. Trivia, the Missouri coach is upset about the other sports dealing with conference realignment. He said football will be fine, others will be terrible for the students. I saw Eli Drinkwitz's comments, and that's essentially what I was just saying. And I'm also quite aware of how hypocritical it is, considering he's at a school that was part of the last round of realignment. Now, he wasn't there at the time, but it's no different. Austin Kidder, Matt, I agree. Each sport should pay their own way, like every person should pay his or her own way. I mean, it'll never happen, Austin, but what will happen is the recourse for some schools, if they do end up in these financial dire straits, is they will end up cutting sports. Ricky Collins, USC Stanford. Oh, did that? Let's see. Mark Blanton, another part of this. Whoops. Wheel. There it is. Another part of this, university enrollments are going to go down in the next decade or so. The baby bust in 08-09 will head to college in 2026. Wilson style, do you think at some point TV revenue bubble will pop? No, I don't. Sorry. No, I don't, Wilson, at all. I don't think it's a bubble. A bubble is something that very quickly and artificially inflates. This is just steady growth over the last 2 decades. And the thing that the only way that stops, Wilson, is if people stop caring about college football. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think people are going to stop caring about Michigan, Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Texas, USC. No, I don't think that that's going to stop. Actually, I think it's going to become even more intriguing because we're going to get better games. It's the thing I keep saying that I think you all intuitively know that no one wants to admit. People go, how stupid that. Okay, baby, I'll be right back. I got to go do videos on Daddy's phone. That gives me an opportunity to All right. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know.
Smash that like button.
If you would, YouTube, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, Facebook, like the page, share the post. Anyway, about TV bubble. So yeah, I don't think we are going to end up with a better product. It's the people that bemoan and say, how stupid that USC is playing in East Lansing in a conference game. I don't care if it's a conference game. Would you be interested to watch UCLA play football against Penn State? I would. I think that would be fun. Would you be interested in watching Oregon play Maryland? What about when Oregon and Ohio State? It's a better example. Best game of the non-conference slate a couple of years ago was Oregon-Ohio State. Oregon went over to the Horseshoe and just bullied Ohio State. That was great. Great game. A lot of fun. It'll just be a conference game moving forward. Who cares? Structure it however you want. Just give me good football. So, no, Wilson, I don't think that the TV bubble pops. I think what you see is better games. When the Big Ten has an 18-game conference schedule and they've got 10 league games or an 18-member league, and they go to 10 league games, and everybody still plays one Power 5 non-conference opponent because a lot of them still have non-conference rivalries built in, like USC, Notre Dame. You know what you're going to get less of? Ohio State against Toledo. You're going to get less of that and more of Washington against Purdue. And that seems weird because it's intersectional, but I'd rather see that. I would rather see that than Washington against Eastern Washington. We're going to get better. We are going to get a better product as a result. It's why they're doing this. It's stability because they know their strength in numbers. And so the haves are banding together at the expense of the at the expense of the have-nots. And the have-nots will continue to play football, and that's fine. Continue to play. But I'm say this again. I'll continue to say it. The problem isn't that greedy schools today are now finding high ground. The problem is that for a century, we've acted like in the FBS, Toledo and Ohio State were the same. We've acted like Tulsa and Oklahoma were the same. We've acted like ULL and LSU are the same. We've acted like UTEP and Texas are the same. They're not. Never have been, never will be. But because they've all played on the FBS level, and you've had these absurd non-conference body bag games with giant payouts, you've had the Power 5 funding the G5's programs and G5 spending at levels they can't afford. Why in the world is UTEP's head football coach is Dana Dimmel. Dana Dimmel is making $850K a year. $850,000 for the UTEP head football coach. How in the world does that make sense? UTEP's revenue last year was $11.8 million. The revenue was 11.8. And you're paying your football coach. And by the way, that's what's going to have to fund your entire athletic department effectively. And they paid $9.3 million in expenses. That's travel, that's lodging, that's food, that's coaching staff, support staff, everything, right? You paid your head coach $850K. Why? Why? Because that's what you have to do to keep up with the Joneses and try to be competitive. There's no sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. That the UTEP football coach is making $850K. Makes no sense at all. Shane O'Mac, what about billiards? I said billboards, billiards. Greg T, good morning. How did the GameCoin meeting go? Good. So the three of us met on Friday. It was a very good meeting. Long story short is, I'm sure you want a long story long, but I won't bore people that are not interested. But of course, Ceratech was the original developer. Felt like it was going too slow with Ceratech. So in the last AMA or last update, they disclosed that they changed developers. So basically ended their relationship with Ceratech, went on a process of vetting new developers, chose one out of the UK called Eskimo. Eskimo did in fact turn around a finished platform, but it was not to the standard and everything that the board wanted. And so they went back to make changes. So they're in that process of making changes right now. And I don't want to give a timeline, but it's according to Eskimo, it's really close. And there's some other really fun stuff. Like some really exciting stuff about who, I'm not going to disclose this at all, but the new ambassador athletes that are primed to come on when the platform launches is going to be really, really fun. Like really fun. Like really cool. So anyway, it went very well. And yes, developer did give a date for completion, but we're not at all going to put that out because for all the obvious reasons we talked about. It's one of the things that's been a great learning process through this whole thing for me is, I'm sure for everybody, is you never announce a date until you control the date. Because there could always be things that happen. So, and that's what David is continuing to say, is like, until I have the finished product and I can decide whenever to turn it on, we're not announcing a date, because we're not letting happen what happened from the switch from GME to GMEX. And it's proven wise. It's proven wise. So it went great. It was a very, very good meeting. Excited about it. Strong side. I like the realignment in college sports. Time for change. Give me more teams in a playoff, less teams to play meaningless bowl games. Brad David, you say gymnastics loses money. What are they spending money on to lose money every year? Couldn't they just cut expenses? This is all public knowledge, by the way. I mean, it's all public record. LSU is a public institution. Let's see. I need to find it. It's over 2 million. I need to find it. This is COVID year. 2020 football with a net income of 53.66 million was the only program to net a profit in fiscal 2020. Let's see. Men's basketball, first loss since 2011. That was the COVID year again. I need to find the new one. And much of that was obviously because March Madness didn't happen, and LSU gymnastics in 2020 lost $2.37 million. So gymnastics, women's basketball, those are some of the biggest revenue hits or financial hits for LSU. And so you're asking, what do they spend money on? Remember, scholarships is a huge one. Like people lose sight of this sometimes. When you get an academic scholarship, that money isn't just waived. The athletic department has to pay the scholarship. So it's not like, oh, you get a scholarship, you just come for free. No, the athletic department has to pay the university tuition for the scholarship. So scholarships, travel, of course, when you're flying private to meets, you fly, you stay in hotels, you have food, of course, room, board, all that stuff that's paid for the gymnast, equipment, from leotards to all the equipment you would need for gymnastics, which there's a lot. Coaches' salaries, recruiting, support staff. Like if you're traveling to go recruit a gymnast, you have a recruiting budget. That's all part of it. Like everything it takes to fund that sport. And it doesn't generate revenue, which is great. I know you're gonna think it's crazy because they put 13,000 people in the PMAC for a gym meet, but when tickets are $2 or $5, whatever they are, and you have 6 home meets, there's not enough home meets to generate revenue on the backs of that. So that's why. And by the way, I love LSU gymnastics. It's one of my favorite sports to watch out of the Olympic sports. I've told you all this before. Like my little nieces, from the time they were teensy tiny, were doing gym, and so they fell in love with it. So our family all started watching. And I think it's an awesome sport. I mean, they are powerful, athletic. LSU's really good at it. It's fun to watch. It's quick. It's less than 2 hours. I mean, it's constant action. I mean, it's great. It's great sport. And I don't think that's going to go anywhere. But the ones that I think would be, again, by the way, I don't think any LSU sports are going to be cut. Like LSU is going to be fine. The SEC schools are going to be fine. That's not going to change. The things that people keep worried about is what happens to Indiana volleyball. Or can you justify sending them to LA? But then I keep saying, like, I mean, if you're Indiana volleyball and you're flying to Maryland, what's the difference hopping on a plane going east to Maryland, going west to LA? I mean, the flight's a little longer, but ain't costing you anything different. Let's see. All right. Y'all smash the like button. Dalton, I'm curious to see if Sheldon Sampson gets rotated in at receiver. I have high hopes for him. Possible first round one day. My limited fan knowledge. Sheldon looks good, man. He's I wish I had my notes on me right now, but when we got to see them do the 7-on-7s on Monday and the quarterback, your receiver cornerback 1-on-1 drills, he did really well. He dusted Denver Harris on a go route. Sheldon also looks like he's gained weight. Like that's one noticeable thing. Yeah, watching him play a bunch of Catholic, he was thin, and just in his off season, just this summer, you could tell he's put on some bulk as well. Now, he's special, but all the freshman receivers have looked really good. Kai Prayon looks good. 12, who's 12? The kid out of Florida. I'm gonna learn them, y'all. I promise. It's just gonna take time. Like this is always happens at fall camp. I mean, you need the roster for the first several weeks. 12 is what's that kid's name? Kyle Parker. He's out of Texas. I'm sorry, Kyle Parker out of Texas. There's another one. There's another. Jalen Brown's the one out of Florida. Parker's the one. 12 out of Texas. Okay. Chris Anthony. Whoops. What up, Matt? Do you see us running the ball like crazy with all the running backs we have? No. I don't think this goes back to like Les Miles days where you're 70-30, I think you always want to be 50-50, but Marquise Robinson, if he leaves, all my 3 new fans, you're the best at what you do, Matt. Truly good. Thanks, Marquise. I appreciate it. Let's see. Ryan Amanda Gidry, good morning, Ty Fly. Les got all kinds of shiny toy recruits like the 26 defensive backs in a single class. Oh, yeah. No, I got you, man. No, I'm with you. Jason Duvall. So that's for those just showing. That's in reference. There was a guy earlier who basically said that I'm not very smart, and he was going to stop listening to me because I said if LSU doesn't get Colin Simmons and Dominic McKinley, that the class isn't. This guy was saying if the LSU doesn't get those two guys, the recruiting class is a failure. And I'm like, how about some perspective? Like, they're going to be fine. And said he's going to stop listening to me if I keep having awful takes like that. So I said, okay, you can stop listening. I'm quite okay. My life is going to be just fine. I've said that before. I'm super grateful to everybody that listens. I've never lost sight of that, but I'm not going to beg anybody to listen. It's just the show is what it is. If it's like art or music or movies or anything or TV, you put out your stuff and you hope people like it. If they do, great. It's you all decide. So if everybody goes away and like everyone decides tomorrow, my show sucks and nobody's ever listening again, I'll be good. I'll go sell roofs with HUDCO. I'll just need to come do roof inspections at your house. Instead of promoting HUDCO, I'll be selling the roof. So I'll be doing the inspections. I don't know. I'll do something. Bubba Smith, BJ Bollinger, what's going on? Brand Roban, can I get a shout out to my wife, Jamie? It's her 39th birthday, and she's put up with me for 13 years. Well, happy birthday, Jamie. Hope your special day is awesome. Make sure Brant does everything for you today. Make sure he gets you breakfast well, it's late for breakfast in bed, but make sure he makes you lunch. He gives you a foot massage if that's what you want. Make sure that you just relax all day. That he sings happy birthday to you. That whatever your favorite birthday cake is, you get that. And he basically just caters to you all day. It's your day, Jamie. Happy birthday. Hope it's an awesome one. Let's see. Morning, Matt. If it's okay. it's okay if fan doesn't think you're bright. You make up for that in swooshing capabilities. Let's see. Brian Penn said, what is LSU's endowment? LSU's endowment is, I think, in the 700 million range. LSU's endowment is, this was as of 2021, 696 million. So right around 700 million. So like for perspective, Stanford's endowment is 36 billion. LSU's is 700 million. And the University of Alabama endowment is now 1.09 billion. Don't tell me football doesn't matter. Austin Kidd, recruiting has always been a bit of a scam, like bowl games. It's an arms race of who can play plausible deniability the best. Transfer portal has been a great neutralizer. That's true. Brett DeGrow, good morning, Scone. I would be disappointed losing McKinley. We'll survive without him. Yeah, look, I mean, of course you want to get the best players in the state, but the only thing that I can say is what I say every day, which is every time we talk about recruiting. You can't, and I don't even like to use the word lose, because you can't lose something you never had. So all you can do is make your pitch. All you can do is go make your best pitch, tell them why they matter to your program, why it would be great to stay home, how they fit in your scheme and what you do. And some people just want to leave. Like some kids just want to leave the state. That's true in every state ever. We always think about the kids that leave Louisiana. We don't think about the kids Louisiana gets from other states. What about going to get Jamal Adams out of Texas? You know, Caleb Von Chasson out of Texas. What about getting Joe Burrow out of Ohio? You know, I mean, you got to consider when you get guys from other states to come here. Zach Lenz, good morning, Matt. The folks tripping on Twitter about your tweet. No one cares about the Mountain West football. You know what's interesting about that, Zach, is that people have completely lost, people lost context completely. So on Friday, I'll reset that for those that missed it. So on Friday, when all the realignment stuff was happening on Friday while I was on air. And so I'm kind of keeping an eye on Twitter and all that stuff as the show's going on, and people, you're seeing all the melt, right? This is terrible for college football. This is all the melt that everybody says. And so I tweeted, this is my tweet. What is happening today is great for college football. The idea of 133 teams on the same level the idea of 133 teams on the same level is and always has been a farce. The days of being force-fed garbage cupcake games and a sham of a postseason dictated by old men and ugly blazers will end. That was my tweet. That was it. Didn't mention any conference, didn't mention any schools, just that essentially we're going to get a better regular season and a better playoff. Somebody from the Twitter account Mountain West Wire, I don't know how this person found my tweet, but did, quote tweets me, wrong. College football is Alabama versus LSU in primetime and Utah State versus Hawaii in the deep black of Saturday night and Sunday morning and Buffalo versus Ball State on Tuesday. It contains multitudes. Anyone claiming otherwise doesn't serve your interests. So I quote tweet him and say, I don't care about Mountain West football and neither does the rest of America. Well, that tweet has been seen 348,000 times now. And it has set off a firestorm of everyone who cares about the Mountain West, including my friend Eddie Nunez, who used to be at LSU, is now the athletic director at New Mexico, who tweeted me, he was like, where's the love? Come on, man. But he did put, haha and all. And so what all that anyone has seen seemingly is I don't care about Mountain. It looks like this person tweeted and I just went after him, when in actuality, it was the reverse. I don't care about the Mountain West. But the point is that I made over and over and over again, because I went and grabbed attendance figures and TV ratings and all that sort of stuff, is last year there was one Mountain West football game, one conference game, Mountain West against Mountain West, one that did over 500,000 views. Did 500,000 viewers. 500,000. Not a million, 500,000. Their conference championship game did just about 1 million viewers. Now, Storm Warning said, I like the Mountain West football, fun watch. You're missing the point. The tweet, nobody cares about Mountain West football, or the rest of America doesn't care, it's hyperbole. I'm not speaking in absolutes. I don't think that literally nobody cares. It is an intentional exaggeration to prove a point. That's hyperbole. So my point is, if I were to say it a different way, if the Mountain West went away tomorrow, if the teams in that league decided to disband and never play college football again, your life doesn't change. My life doesn't change. We all continue watching football the same way we always have. Literally, none of our lives would change at all. Zero. If Utah State decided they weren't going to play football anymore, Air Force, Boise, Smurf turf and all, Nevada, if those teams decide not to play football ever again, our life goes on. Same as it always has. That's the point. And you could say you love it, but the reality is, look, if there's football on TV, I'm going to watch. I don't care if it's Mountain West, if it's Tuesday Maction, I'm going to watch. I tell you all the time, I love crappy bowl games. Why? Because it's football on TV, and I'll watch. But the point is, don't tell me what's happening right now is bad for college football because it negatively affects Nevada. I don't care about Nevada. I don't. If they decide not to have a college football team anymore, okay. Anyway, that's the point. I want some of the Mountain West people to invite me on their show. I want to go mix it up. Oh, I'm sorry. There would have to be Mountain West-based football shows for it to matter. Let's see. Mike the Tiger, 2023 Natty Champ. Some people think Standard. That's probably Stanford will go independent. Yeah, I think Stanford could go independent. The real trouble Stanford might have if they did that is when you don't know. It's different when leagues are playing 8 league games and 4 non-conference games, so there's plenty of availability to go build a football schedule. But if teams are going to start playing 10, 11 conference games, you don't have as much availability. They don't have as much availability in their schedule to play you as a non-conference game. So that's really the challenge. So, I mean, could they really build out a full schedule every single year? That's the challenge. I mean, Notre Dame did their sort of partnership with the ACC to where they play 4 ACC teams a year. You know, I mean, that helps them build their schedule. And then they've got their traditional games with SC and Stanford and Purdue and all that sort of stuff. Navy. Cody Kibido, hope the SEC stays pat, doesn't add teams just to say they did. There's no way they add teams just to add teams. Like, it just doesn't make sense. We say it all the time. Like, the other leagues added out of necessity. You know, the Big Ten adding USC and UCLA was to try to keep pace financially with the SEC, who added Texas and Oklahoma. And then the opportunity came to add 2 other big brands with Oregon and Washington. And since you already had a footprint on the West Coast, it made sense for the Big Ten to add those 2 brands. There isn't an obvious solution for the SEC that makes you a stronger brand, financially or otherwise. Like, the SEC is not going to add Stanford. And none of the ACC teams are available because they all have a $120 million grant of rights exit fee. Hey, babe,
Yeah.
would you check his backpack? It should be done. And then also push his Lasix.
What?
And then also pushes his Lasix.
All medicine.
Dalton said, I know it won't happen. Florida State and the SEC would be cool. I think the fan base is big enough to benefit the SEC money-wise. You're missing the point, Dalton. And it's not to say that that it wouldn't be cool and all that, but it's not about its fan base being big enough or anything like that. It's about what do you add to a potential TV contract. Like, that is what it boils down to. When the SEC expanded in 2011, adding Texas A&M and Missouri, and some of you have heard me say this, but I'll explain it again for those that didn't. That was before the SEC network launched. And so the league was trying to position itself. Remember, the Big Ten network was the first network. It existed first. And even still today, the Big Ten network isn't available on every cable provider. They launched their network, but didn't have distribution. When the SEC launched the SEC network, their goal was to have more distribution than, or as much distribution as possible, certainly more than the Big Ten. And when they launched on every cable provider in America, and DirecTV and Dish and everything. So you could get SEC network literally on every cable provider. Part of that, adding Texas A&M and Missouri, was it got you into Texas, and it got you into Missouri, which was St. Louis and Kansas City. So it got you two other large markets in Missouri. So people would say, oh, add Florida State and Clemson. It didn't matter. You already were in the state of South Carolina, and you're already in the state of Florida. So they didn't get you new markets. Now I'm with you, Dalton. I'm with you. I'm just explaining this further, but because it's so the SEC added those schools, and when the SEC network launched, it launched with complete and total coverage. So adding TV markets now is irrelevant because you're on every cable provider. So adding TV markets doesn't matter. So the fact that Florida State is in the state of Florida doesn't matter. Like it did before. You wouldn't have added Florida State in 2011 because you were already in the state of Florida with the University of Florida. So, but now you say, well, why do you add Texas and Oklahoma? You're already in Texas. Because it didn't matter as far as being in the state. What you were adding is brands. What brands would elevate your brand enough to where it would be even more valuable TV property? Well, Texas and Oklahoma do that. I don't know that Florida State football does. Florida State's got a great brand, but does adding Florida State and Clemson so dramatically elevate your brand that you have to go back to the TV networks and say you got to pay us even more now? I don't know. I don't know that answer. What I do know is as the SEC has expanded, what's important to them is adding in markets they're not in the contiguous footprint of the league. So that's why. So you're in South Carolina. Well, that's why North Carolina has always been appealing, and Virginia. So University of North Carolina and University of Virginia have been appealing, or North Carolina, Virginia Tech have been appealing to the league. But the hang up, as it's always been said to me, is North Carolina doesn't want to go without Duke. Virginia, like their state legislature, wouldn't let Virginia go without Virginia Tech. So who knows? Leon Williams, Debo, Matt. Don't know if you saw it, Missouri. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, but I actually disagree completely. I saw Eli Drinkwitz's clip. I just completely disagree with him. I mean, it's fine for him to say, but it's also hypocritical. Like, if you really truly cared about all those other non-revenue sports, and you would just say, "Oh, we'll just take all of our money from football. I don't need to make $4 million a year, and we don't need to fly private, and we just take all the money from football and give it to all these other sports so they can exist." But he won't do that. Trivia, you didn't give me your favorite numbers. My favorite number is 8. Trivia. I don't know what Erica and Drew's favorite numbers are. Drew was born on the 18th, so how about that? We're all July, so we're all 7. Erica, Drew, and I are all born in July, so all 7. So 7/8, 7/18, 7/30 are our birthdays. So 7, 8, 18, and 30. How about that? Debo, the hill I'll always die on is I prefer college football more than the NFL. Okay, who's changing that? Nobody's changing that. You're still going to have tons of college football to watch. And by the way, the thing that I will point out is the only region of America that prefers college football to the NFL is the Southeast. I know it's weird because it's where we live. And so a lot of times we exist in our own bubble and you think like this is reality, but it's not. If you looked at a heat map of the United States of favorite sport, it's like the entire country is NFL and the Southeast is college football. Like that's literally it because we don't have major metropolitan areas and professional sports teams dominate major metropolitan areas. Curious to see what the Big Ten gets rebranded as now they have 16 teams. They won't. I mean, they were at 11 for years. They've been at 14. They're not rebranded. They'll stay the Big Ten. Excuse me. And they're not at 16, they're at 18. American Patriot can't get enough college football. Give me college over the NFL every day. That's fine. And you will get to watch tons of college football. Debo, I think revenues are on the rise. Basketball is up. Gymnastics is going to have a good team with the women's. Debo, you're missing the point. LSU women's basketball and LSU gymnastics will never make money. They will always, it's what you would term a loss leader. Like, it will perform well, but it's not going to make, you are going to lose money on those sports forever. There is no model to make money on those sports. Like, that's the problem. I mean, if women's basketball sold out every game and increased ticket prices, they could come close to breaking even, but they would just lose less. There is no model for them to make money. Baseball barely makes money, and it barely makes money because it has suites. It has suites and the Champions Club. It has premium seating that they can charge at a premium. That's why baseball breaks even or makes a little bit of money. There is no model for that with women's basketball or gymnastics. Like, you have to understand, they're never going to make money in those sports. But they continue to invest in those sports because, like Kim Mulkey in women's basketball, it's a loss leader. You realize, okay, is there a residual benefit given LSU when your women's basketball program is good? And the answer to that, I would say, is yes. Look at what just happened, winning in the national championship, Angel Reese. Think of all of the positive publicity that championship gave LSU. Was that worth $2 million or whatever that you lose? Absolutely, because you couldn't spend $2 million in marketing and have it be more effective than that. So it's worth it. I'm just saying, like, there's no way that they'll ever make money in those sports. Like, on a balance sheet is what I'm saying. There's no model to make money on those sports. Let's see. Let's see. Do players get a portion of their jersey sales? They can. Yeah. Under NIL. If it's like, if you go to LSU's shop and you buy a jersey with so-and-so player's name on the back, they would get a portion of that, yes. Now, what do you think about Florida State going to JP Morgan for funding? I'll be fascinated to see if it works. I mean, Florida State is trying to go to private equity to see if they can raise enough money to get out of the $120 million exit fee, or to pay the $120 million exit fee for the grant rights to be able to leave the ACC. It shows you how drastic that situation is. Trivia, my ex was going crazy Friday with Matt going back and forth with the mouth breathers. X being Twitter, of course, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Debo, if we have Oregon joining the Big Ten, I could see Stanford joining the Ivy League, LOL. Dalton, glad you clarified the Mountain West stuff. I enjoyed watching those games because, like you said, it's football on TV. Yeah, no, absolutely. But that is one of the inherent problems with Twitter, is when it's short form text, you often lose context. And people can take one small piece and extrapolate what they feel to be a larger meaning. Let's see. Brennan Huff, I love Mountain West football. My favorite team is the team in the mountains out west. Forgot their name. Well done. Gulf South, wait, the SEC isn't already in the North Carolina market when the SEC network is headquartered in Charlotte. No, I know people ask about that sometimes. So ESPNU was headquartered in Charlotte. And so obviously the SEC partnered with ESPN for the SEC network. And so because they already had the infrastructure built in Charlotte for ESPNU, that's why they headquartered the SEC network there. I was saying my hot take is college football is greater than the NFL because of the tradition and the way we treat it. Debo, I don't actually think you believe that. I think it's just what you grew up with. I'm assuming you're from here. And so when you're from here, you grew up with Saturdays going to Tiger Stadium. If you're from Philadelphia, you don't grow up going to Temple games. You grew up going to the Eagles games. So it's just what you grew up with. I mean, all the things we say about the tradition and the fight songs all that's awesome. Those are great parts of the pageantry of college football. But it's not why we love it. We love it because from the time you were born, as early as you can remember, your parents put you in purple and gold and took you to Tiger Stadium, and that's just the thing that you have a deeply rooted love of. You didn't grow up passionately loving an NFL team like I did. I grew up because I was born in New Orleans, and my family's had Saints season tickets forever. I grew up Saturdays were LSU, Sundays were Saints, so I passionately love them both. It's not like, oh, the Saints got good when Sean Payton came, so I started to pay more attention. Storm warning, multiple SEC teams in Texas and Florida are needed. Both have huge populations. Texas has 30 million, Florida has 20 million. If the SEC expands, look for a move on North Carolina, FSU, or Miami. Multiple SEC teams in Texas and Florida are needed. Why? That's a fundamental falsehood. It doesn't matter because there's population there. You're missing the point. I just explained this point. When the SEC was expanding, it was to get TV distribution for the SEC network. They have that. That's no longer a conversation. Distribution is no longer the issue. The SEC network is on every cable provider in the country. So it's no longer about distribution. It's about adding brands that will increase the value of your property. That's it. So the SEC would have to evaluate, does Florida State, Miami, Clemson, do they add enough brand to my league to where we can go to the TV partner and say, hey, we just added state, you have to pay us more. It has nothing to do with population in Texas and Florida, literally zero to do with that. Austin, Matt, based on what you're saying about TV markets, it sounds like it's possible that A&M could have been left out of the SEC if Texas joined first. They should thank Big Brother. Yeah, Austin, there is a big part of that. But remember, Texas and Oklahoma were joined at the hip, and at that time in 2011, there was the talk of Texas and Oklahoma going to the Pac-10. Ultimately, the Big 12 teams told Texas and Oklahoma, stay and we'll give you a larger revenue share. The Big 12 didn't have equal rev share. Everyone didn't get an equal slice of pie. Texas, Oklahoma got a bigger share. That was the concession for them staying back in 2011. Wilson Silv, hope the SEC will diversify their TV package to the next TV deal like the Big 10 has. What do you mean? Roger Dodger, I surprised people can't see the light at the end of the tunnel with college football realignment. It might take years, but we're on track to have a symmetrical system to crown a champion. Gulf South, even Oklahoma softball, who dominates, lost $2 million in 2022. I imagine Utah gymnastics also has 7-figure losses. The problem with Twitter threads also is that it doesn't always show the full thread. It gets blown out of context. True. Storm Warning said your point about TV brands is overstated and wrong. We'll disagree. Okay, then you're going to have to clarify, because I'm telling you, I've had this conversation with people in the SEC office. I'm not guessing. So if you're going to say my opinion or my point is overstated and wrong, you're going to have to clarify what point is overstated and wrong, because I'm not guessing. I'm literally telling you that's the reality. In 2011, when the league expanded, it was because they were trying to get distribution in every cable provider, and that's why they expanded the footprint of the league into Texas and into Missouri. The SEC has full distribution across every single cable and satellite provider in the country. That's no longer an appeal. So when you're talking about anything other than what's going to increase rights fees for TV, there's nothing else that matters, because that is the biggest payout for the league. When any league is expanding, again, it's kind of funny to me that you have this some opinion that you can't clearly state, and I'm not like coming at you, but I'm sharing information that is this is factual. Like, you can go look this up. What I'm telling you, the SEC network has full distribution across every cable provider, and so if you're going to add to the league, the biggest payout for the conference comes from its TV revenue, its TV deals, right? And so all the TV revenue goes into a pot, along with all the bowl revenue, March Madness revenue, College World Series. It all goes into the pot, and they divide it evenly among the member institutions in the league office. So it's presently 15 shares, 14 member institutions, and the league all get an equal share of the pot. You full number and you cut it equally 15 ways. Okay. So if you're going to bring someone else in, they have to bring enough value to where the pot grows significantly enough to where everybody's share gets bigger. Otherwise, all you're doing is you're diluting your league. You're adding someone else to eat off the pie that didn't grow, so everybody's share gets smaller. So it's no longer about getting into new TV markets because you have full distribution on literally every cable and satellite provider. So it's not about that. It's about, can you add big enough brands? Like, this is the reality. Can you add big enough brands like Texas and Oklahoma to where you can now go to ESPN and say, hey, ESPN, our contract is this. We just added Texas and Oklahoma, and we feel like it elevated our brand. Boom, let's negotiate the new deal. Because as the deal states presently, if the SEC were to expand, the revenue would go up based on an equal share times the number of teams you added. So basically, look at the average per team, and now you'd multiply it, or you'd add 2 shares for Texas and Oklahoma. What the SEC has said is, yeah, but this is Texas and Oklahoma. These aren't just 2 teams. You pay us more on the numbers of the deal because ESPN has balked at that. So my point is, they're not going to go add Florida State because there's more people in the state of Florida. That's stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's, what brand can we add to our league that's going to make us even more appealing to our TV partners that will pay us more money for the rights? Like, that's it. So, I mean, I'm not trying to come hard at you, but you're saying that's like disagreeing that 2 + 2 is 4. Like, that's not an opinion. It's a fact. It's how all of this is structured. Like, I've spent an enormous amount of time professionally on all of this stuff, and I know how it works. I'm not guessing. This isn't an opinion. Let's see. I can't wait for football. Bud Lights at 10 a.m. 2 p.m. drunk nap, then primetime football with a headache. Gulf South, I would think Florida State and Clemson would definitely add more of a brand than North Carolina, Duke, or Virginia Tech. I'm telling you, man, and I've had those conversations. You might think that, but it's just not true. And maybe a big part of it is what North Carolina and Duke would add on a basketball side, because you would get rev shares, obviously, with those teams making the tournament, potentially making deep runs in the NCAA tournament. Remember, the way the NCAA tournament shares work is that there is a share. So every game played, you take the total number of games played in the tournament and divide the total revenue of the tournament by the games played, and that's a share. So every team that plays a game, that league gets that share, right? So if you figure North Carolina and Duke will always be getting you shares in basketball, that's something worth mentioning. From a TV standpoint, it does expand your contiguous footprint, which adding teams in Florida doesn't. Anyway, where are we? Joseph Baggert, what's going on? I'm rewinding the beginning, long show. Yeah, this has been a long show. How long? 79 minutes, so hour and 20 already. We're almost done now. Brett DeGrow, Edward O, Trivia Carter. Personally, want North Carolina, Virginia Tech, so we could have all but one Southern state represented. Matt, does LSU baseball make money or break even? Um, like it makes money, but it's less than $1 million, and it's probably a year-to-year thing. I'd be curious to see what happened this year, but like if I'm not mistaken, I want to say like last fiscal year it made like 500K. Here you go. If this is correct and most recent, it looks like baseball's revenue was 3.2, their expenses were 2.1. What's that? 603,000.
Hey, Matt, you want to lock this behind me?
Yeah, I'm almost done.
Okay. Can you do like syringe, like
Yeah,
syringes and stuff?
I will.
Stuff around here? Okay.
Yep.
We'll just, I should hopefully be home at 2 or 3, and we'll go to Jennifer's.
Okay, babe.
And Lucy's after mall, please.
Okay. Trying to find baseball real quick, y'all. Baseball again is like it's like $500,000 that they make. Can't find it. I need to go find. There's like a chart that they publish every year. I think maybe like Tiger Rag even publishes it every year. Maybe it's the Advocate. Oh, here you go. Oh, never mind. Well, crap. This was 2018. For whatever this is worth. Okay, here you go. 2018. Baseball in 2018, revenue was 6.3, expenses were 5.8. They profited 569K. Football profited. This was 2018. Okay, so again, like this is 5 years ago, but just for context. In 2018, football made 56 million. Men's basketball made 1.6. Baseball made 569. Everybody else lost. Women's basketball lost 4.3 million. This was in 2018. Gym lost 2.8. Softball lost 2.5. Women's track and field lost 2.7. Men's track and field lost 2.7. Men's golf lost 1.1. Women's golf lost 924K. Volleyball lost 1.8. Women's soccer lost 1.8. Men's tennis lost 993K. You get the point. Women's swimming lost $1.3 million. What are you spending $1.3 million? Anyway. Anyway. Ooh, trivia. So what's going to happen with the Longhorn Network? My understanding is Longhorn Network will disband. Noah Lejeune, Matt, it feels like something huge is happening every single week regards to my favorite sport. I know you say it'll end up being a net positive. It's tough to see that right now. Noah, it's only tough to see that because you're paying too much attention to people bemoaning on Twitter about what's going to happen to the non-revenue sports and travel and this and that. What's going to happen, Noah, is on the first weekend of September, we're all going to be just gorging on college football. And Noah, it doesn't matter that you're not on Twitter. Figuratively speaking, Twitter, message boards, talk radio, whatever it is, you talking to your friends, because it's the echo chamber. I tell people all the time, it's a fan echo chamber. Like, what is going to happen is with these conferences expanding, the power leagues are going to end up playing more conference games. You're going to have fewer garbage body bag games that nobody wants to see, and you're going to have a true playoff. Like, that is going to be a good thing for college football. Perkins for Heisman. Let's see, Matt, are there any rule changes implemented in college football this year? The one that matters, I think, is the I think the one that's the biggest is the clock rule on first down. So, like in the NFL, they're no longer stopping the clock after a first down. I think inside of like 2 minutes or whatever it is, maybe. But and I think that's a good thing. Look, the reason that college football years ago implemented that rule, obviously where you stop the clock after a first down, was to try to get more offense into the game. Keep in mind, the idea is these are still college athletes, not professional athletes, and they're not going to be as efficient, so they were trying to get more offense into the game. Well, the way that college football has changed, like they're running 100 plays a game. Like, you don't need to artificially inject more offense into the game. So keeping the clock moving will keep the game moving. It's going to be a net positive. That's really the one big one. Wilson, SEC should go back to having their games on different TV stations rather than being married to ESPN. Aren't they having financial issues? No, they're not having financial issues. They're fine. Well, that's a deep, convoluted problem or question. And remember, how much time do we want to spend on this? Do you really care? That's what I'm weighing in my head. You see ESPN cutting on-air talent. You think, man, they're really struggling financially. The flip side of it is you see them do a $100 million deal with Pat McAfee. It's like, well, it's really just a shift in philosophy of what they're spending money on, the things that make them money is basically what it is. And live sports, especially the SEC, will always make them money. So to that question, whoever that was that asked it, the SEC on CBS television contract was like $50 million. The SEC deal with ESPN, is where's the number? It's basically like a 10x of what CBS was paying. Like, basically, CBS got a long-term deal before TV revenue went crazy, and so the SEC was locked in that 230 window, was locked into what ended up being a bargain basement deal for CBS. When CBS had to come back to the negotiating table, ESPN was there as well. Like, yeah, we'll pay a 10x multiple on that, and CBS was like, yeah, we can't afford that. So, let's see. Noah, I'm mostly listening to you. I'll shut up and look forward to September 3rd. Noah, just enjoy football, bro. That's the most basic level. So, all right, y'all. Hour and a half this morning. It's 11:20. Wow. Okay. Y'all have an awesome day.
Smash that like button.
If you're on YouTube, do me a favor, smash that like button. As always, shout out to Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, and Hudco Roofing. You need an orthopedist, go to Brock. Need a roof, give a shout out to Hudco. Restored Motions and ProCharge. Got pain? Go see our friends at Restored Motions. And, of course, ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. All right, have an awesome Sunday, y'all. I appreciate so much y'all watching. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate y'all being here. So have a great Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.